Hey, welcome to day 2 of the Circle of Fifths overview video. Yesterday we began talking about the Circle of Fifths, and we said that all it is all of the major scales shown not alphabetically, but in the way that they relate to each other. And it's called the Circle of Fifths because as you move clockwise around that circle, the fifth note of one key is the first note of the next key. And as you go from one key to the next, the sharps accumulate. In other words, F sharp shows up for the very first time in the key of G, and each of the successive keys have the F sharp and not the F natural. So the sharps are cumulative. Because they're cumulative, each new key has one more sharp than the one that preceded it, or another way of saying that is that the number of sharps increases the further away you get from the key of C. Now, those are good things to know, but you also need to know, where do I find the new sharp for each key? You find that by finding the root note. That's the note that gives the key its name. And you go down a half step. On your guitar, that's a distance of 1 fret. Very convenient for us. So that's from yesterday. Today, we're going to cover the other half. Yesterday's part was called the sharp keys. These are the flat keys. And some people, when they're referring to the flat keys part of the Circle of Fifths, they don't call it the Circle of Fifths. They call it the Circle of Fourths. It can be a little confusing, but it's important for you to remember that they are exactly the same thing. We call it the Circle of Fifths because as you go clockwise from C, it's the fifth note of one key that becomes the first note of the next. But as you go counterclockwise, it's the fourth note of one key that becomes the first note of the next. So here's the circle, and I'm going to start putting in the keys on the left-hand side here. We're going quickly, but it doesn't really matter because you don't have to remember any of this stuff. I don't need you to take any notes today. You can see that the fourth note of one key becomes the first note of the next. And that's something that you do have to remember for tomorrow. Counterclockwise from C, the fourth note of one key is the first note of the next. Just like yesterday, those flats accumulate. So here B flat shows up for the very first time in the key of F, and it's not B natural, but B flat in each of the successive keys that follow. So the flats are also cumulative. Because they're cumulative, that means the further away you get from C, the greater the number of flats you are going to see. So none in C, 1 in F, 2 in B flat, etc., etc. The number of flats increases the farther away you get from C. So now you need to know, where do I find the new flat in each key? If you take the root note and you go up a fourth, you're going to find the new flat in each key. Now, it's really easy to see here because, of course, once you know the answer, everything is obvious, and you can see that it's the fourth note of each one. We're more concerned with, how do I find this interval of a fourth on the guitar? As guitar players, we are awesome with shapes and we suck at note names. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use our superior shape knowledge to inform our inferior note name knowledge. So here's the B flat major scale. This is the same scale shape from yesterday that we used when we talked about A. It's a shape that you've seen before. If you can find the root note, the one it starts on, and you can count up 4 notes from there, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's the new flat in each successive key. This gets even easier for guitar, because from the root note, the interval of a fourth is the exact same fret, just moved up a string. And when I say up a string, I mean up in pitch and not up towards the ceiling. So, fifth thing you have to remember for tomorrow is that for most of the guitar, you can find a fourth on the same fret, 1 string higher. There is an exception, but we're not here to talk about exceptions. We're here to talk about the generalities. So, things to remember for tomorrow. Counterclockwise from C, the fourth note of one key is the first note of the next. The flats are cumulative. Because they're cumulative, the further away you get from C, the greater the number of flats that you're going to see. You need to know where to find that new flat in each successive key, and it is up a fourth from the root note. And you can find the interval of a fourth for most of the guitar, most of the places you would actually build a major scale. You're going to find it same fret, 1 string higher. So if you're finding this out on YouTube and you didn't get this in your email inbox, and you want to be a part of this free email course that delivers these little tiny videos and lessons to you each day, you can go over to the Fretboard Anatomy site. It's at fret.cc/circle. Thanks. We'll see you tomorrow.